What's up, guys? This is Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Landmark from Kaees. So the Landmark is Kaees's first tank out on the market, and it definitely brings a few new features to the game. The first feature is the way you fill the Landmark. The top drip tip presses down and spins to open up a little slot on the side that they call the smile hole, and you just fill that up and then spin it back and it pops up. Very interesting. We'll see all of this in the close-up. The other cool feature that the Landmark introduces to vaping is a way to adjust your atomizer's juice intake on the fly without taking your atomizer out. So when you spin the top of the tank, the little juice windows down there on the bottom of the chimney covering the atomizer spin to close them off a little more, to open them up a little more. Really cool. It's like they took the Delta 2's coil and made it exterior. Now, as cool as those two features are, there are a lot of issues with the Landmark that I just have to address. The first issue is the nickel coil they sent me, the 0.2 ohm Ni200 pre-built coil. I popped in here, it read it as nickel, all that jazz worked, but then as soon as I started using it, all of the juice leaked out the bottom airflow. So I don't know if it was just a dud or just a bad atomizer that I got or what, but that coil definitely needed some work. The second issue is the 0.5 ohm coil. It works, there is no leaking, so that's good. So it's usable. The problem is the draw is pretty tight. This is definitely a tank for a new user or someone who prefers the mouth to lung hit rather than the just straight lung hit. And the third, less serious issue I have with this tank is the drip tip not only is very loose, but the edge can feel a bit sharp at times. You'll go to put this in your mouth and it kind of hits your lip and it just feels uncomfortable. I just wish they would have kind of beveled or rounded off the top of the strip tip. It would have made it a lot more comfortable to use. So let's go ahead and dive into a close-up and check out the Landmark by Kaees. So here's the box the Landmark comes in, and I thought this was pronounced Kaees when I first saw it, but according to the manufacturer, it's pronounced Kaees. So along with the tank, you're going to get a 0.5 ohm coil, a 0.2 ohm nickel coil, and an RBA, and I will show you how to do a build in its RBA today. Underneath your tank and atomizers, you will find a screwdriver that's not blue again. Is black the new standard for screwdrivers? I don't know. We got a very, very small bag of cotton. Some wire that looks like 26 or 28 gauge, extra screen, extra screws, extra O-rings. And underneath that we have our user manual. So here is the Landmark tank. I absolutely love this lion face logo. That looks so cool in my opinion. Got little hourglass windows to see our juice level, and the other side says Kaees. The 510 that appears to be gold or brass plated is not spring loaded, but it is floating, so the little plate on the inside of the base can move up and move down for the coil. The airflow ring is free spinning, and there are two airflow options, and they're very similar to one another. So this is the smaller one, and this is the full-size one. So here's the drip tip that comes with the Landmark. As you can kind of see here, the edges are very defined, and this makes them a tad sharp. It would be really hard to actually cut yourself on this drip tip, but it just feels rough. And the drip tip does have two O-rings on the bottom, but they're so small in diameter that it doesn't wiggle at all, but it does come out fairly easy. So one of the most interesting design features of the Landmark is how you fill the thing. So you're going to press down on the drip tip and turning this bottom portion of metal, turn that counterclockwise until, as Kaees says, the smile of this little smiley face opens up.
And you're just going to stick the needle tip of your bottle in there to fill, and these other holes, or the eye holes of the smiley face, are like air intake. So air goes in there as your juice goes in here. So I'm going to be filling the Landmark up today with some of our tropical custard. This is a brand new flavor. It is strawberry, banana, pear, pineapple, finishing with custard. It is absolutely an all-day vape for me. I really like this flavor. So what I'm going to do is press down, turn counterclockwise until the little smile's open, and this has just got a little spring in it. But it doesn't click into place, so you do have to kind of make sure you have the smile side of the smiley face fully open. And this tank holds a massive 6 milliliters of juice. And this fill design doesn't pool at all. It really does a good job of pulling air in as you're letting liquid out, so it doesn't pool and fall out the top. So other than the filling design that's really cool with the Landmark, it also allows you to adjust how much juice enters your atomizer. So this top ring right here, we can spin this, and you'll notice we're closing off the windows of our coil. And we can spin it back and open them up. So really cool. I don't have to, if it starts to flood, I don't have to take the atomizer out, turn a little metal shield, and then install everything and get my hands all juicy. I can just close it off a little bit if it's starting to flood. And if it starts to taste dry, I'll just open it right back up. Very cool feature. I love that about the Landmark. That's probably my favorite feature about this tank. So here is the 0.5 ohm bottom dual vertical coil, rated for 15 to 50 watts. And it's using the screen mesh on top to help eliminate some spitback. But I did find, maybe it's how the chimney is structured, but I did find I got a little bit of juice in my mouth when using this coil. And this is the 0.2 ohm Ni200 coil for temperature control. And just like on the 0.5 ohm, we have these 4 juice windows on all the sides and the screen mesh on top. Although, like I said, I had some issues with this nickel coil. I don't know if it's a dud and this one is just a defect, but when I put this in and fired it a little bit, it all started pouring out the bottom airflow. And then this little guy is the RBA that comes with the Landmark. You can think of this RBA for the Landmark like an oversized CLR coil for the Ego 1 tanks. However, this RBA, you will have to take in and out screws to secure this top hood over the coil and wick. So rather than having that little plate that threads down and smashes in between the wick, with the Landmark's RBA, you slide this hood down and have to put in these screws. So let's go ahead and pop a build in the Landmark's RBA. First thing you're going to want to do is take apart the RBA. So with a small screwdriver or the one that came included with the tank, just go ahead and unscrew the 2 screws on either side. Then you're just going to slide this hood right off. And here you can see what I mean when I say this is an oversized CLR. We're going to do a horizontal build, and we're going to stick our drill bit right into those sleeves in order to secure it at the bottom. So this bit is a 2.4 millimeter screwdriver, and make sure whatever you do decide to wrap your coils around for this RBA, make sure it'll fit down these slots. That way you can leave your coil on what you wrapped with and just slide it down and have the leads pop out the bottom. So I'm going to be using some 24 gauge nichrome 80 today for this build. So I cut about 5 or 6 inches of that 24 gauge nichrome. Now I'm going to go ahead and do 6 wraps. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull these leads nice and straight. And before we can install this coil, what we want to do is pull this bottom piece of metal, this positive pin, out of the RBA and take off this rubber gasket. Now what we're going to do is slip the 2 leads of our coil down through the RBA and out the bottom. So it should look just like that. Now what you want to do is hold your screwdriver and RBA with the bottom of the screw bit at the bottom of those slots, with your 2 leads sticking out the right side or the bottom of your RBA. Take that little rubber gasket and just slip it over one of the leads. And go ahead and bend the outer lead over the metal, and then take your gasket and pop it into place. And you'll notice the rubber gasket has a small little chunk that fits into these slots on the bottom of the RBA. So just turn the gasket until that little piece of rubber fits right into that groove. Then fold over your other lead or your positive lead, and now take the pin and pop it into the gasket. Now you can go ahead and trim those leads and make sure you get them as close as you can. And if your coil ends up a little off-centered like this one is, where it's touching the sides, that's definitely not good. That will cause a short. So what you want to do is take a flathead and just gently push the coil to the center of the RBA. So it should look something like that. And make sure your coil is still centered when you're all done tuning it, because we're going to need to slide our cotton through the coil. Once you have your coil built and centered, we're going to go ahead and screw the top cap of the RBA back onto the base. So once your coil is built and you've put the hood back onto the base of the RBA, we're going to go ahead and wick through that outer hood through our coil to the other side. So I'm just going to be using some Japanese Shishido cotton today, and I like to taper both ends so it's easier to pull it through. And you're just going to go ahead and spin one end, and then slip it through the coil. Kind of spin it as you do that. Then, since I built my coil a little lower, I have these gaps in the top of the windows. You don't want that. It will flood if you leave those open. So what you want to do is just shove some of the cotton back into the top of those windows. And then go ahead and trim your cotton flush with the metal. And there, now you can see our cotton is plugging that hole. Do the same thing to the other side. So that's it. That's how you build on the Landmark's RBA. So yeah, that is the Landmark from Kaees, their first tank. I love the top fill design. I really love the ability to adjust your liquid valve, your intake on your atomizer. And it holds a lot of juice at 6 milliliters, almost too much. It's almost, I want to change my juice before I vape 6 mils of it. So I find I normally fill it just past the center of this little hourglass. So in my opinion, a few things need to be polished up with the Landmark. I'm really looking forward to Kaees' next tank that they release. But all in all, they got a lot of really cool features going for them, and it makes this a nice tank, especially for that newer user who hasn't really ventured into the sub-ohm market yet. If they're looking for a tighter draw and the option to play around with an RBA, I'd say try out the Landmark.
So that's the Landmark by Kaees. All around, it's a pretty cool tank. It's got a lot of things going for it. It's got a lot of things that I think need a little work. But from filling it, which is super easy, to being able to adjust your liquid that enters your atomizer. The draw is a little tight for me, I will say that. But for some of you, this might be exactly what you're looking for. This isn't a kind of tank you're gonna put on a 50 plus watt device. 50 watts is about the maximum. I've been using this on 35 with the 0.5 ohm coil, and it works great. So thank you, Kaees, for sending me your Landmark to review. I hope you guys have enjoyed. This has been Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor. Have a great day, guys.